From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this President's Day Monday. I'm Casey Conlon. A winter storm continues to blanket much of Montana. Heavy snowfall burying roads across the state. So we're going to go right to meteorologist Miller Robson with our latest forecast.
Yeah, Casey, there's a lot of snow across the region as this winter storm bears down. And once the snow goes away, the problem beyond that, it's just going to be cold. It's cold and snowy right now. We'll break it down for you as we go along, but you can see just a few spots around the state. There's a great shot there in Whitefish. Also, the snow coming down there in Bozeman as well. You can see a lot of slick roads out there, slick sidewalks there in Billings. So please be careful during your commute as the snow continues to fall. And you can see we do have these watches and warnings, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, even those extreme cold warnings in effect, cold weather advisory. So we've got the snow and we've got the cold. Look at the temperatures out there. Some of us double digits below zero with the actual temperatures, and those wind chills are brutal. Tell you all about this winter storm coming up.
We begin on the High Line, where a train derailed near Poplar in far northeast Montana yesterday morning. This video sent by viewer John Wood shows a BNSF train derailment near Highway 2 between mile markers 611 and 612. MTN reached out to the BNSF rail company. Lena Kent, General Director of Public Affairs, says 12 cars carrying mixed freight were derailed at approximately 6 a.m. Sunday morning. There are no injuries. Crews were on site most of the day to clear the incident, including Patrick Construction out of Havre, which told MTN about 200 feet of rail needed to be repaired. The cause for the derailment is still under investigation. These are the latest pictures released by the Wyoming Department of Transportation from a deadly crash in a tunnel near Green River, Wyoming. That is now confirmed to have killed 3 people. You can see charred remains of cars in the westbound tunnel. Overall, WYDOT says 26 vehicles were involved, 8 of them completely destroyed. The crash happened around 11:30 Friday morning, filling the tunnel with thick black smoke that could be seen for miles. 2 people were pronounced dead early on, with a third confirmed yesterday afternoon as the investigation continues. Wyoming also receiving heartbreaking news in the latest on last Monday's shooting in the small town of Byron. 7-year-old Olivia, who was fighting for her life after her 3 sisters were all killed by their mother, succumbed to her injuries Saturday. Olivia was shot inside her home Monday along with her 9-year-old sister Braylee and their 2 younger siblings, Brooke and Jordan, who were both 2 years old. The mother of the 4, 32-year-old Tranielle Harshman, then called 911 before turning the gun on herself. In a post on the family's GoFundMe page, it says Olivia fought hard up until the last minute, that her body and brain had been through too much. Olivia's father, Quinn Blackmer, posted on Facebook saying, "The amount of devastation we feel and are going through is so much. The peace I find is knowing that my babies don't have to be apart from each other and they can also be with their other sisters." That's today's Leading Look. That tragedy continuing to affect so many, including the first responders who arrived on that scene. MTN's James Rowland spent 2 days riding along with first responders in Cascade County for an up-close and personal look at a day in the life. As a warning, some images in this story are graphic and may disturb some.
So we're going to these houses here. We tend to go on them quite a bit with overdoses.
The wail of sirens, the rush to respond. Every second counts. When emergencies strike anywhere in Montana, paramedics and EMTs are often the first to arrive, providing life-saving care on the scene. For this edition of Odd Jobs, I spent 2 days riding with an ambulance crew, watching as they navigated through both city and rural environments, answering call after call. But it's not all action. The medics have to train very regularly. One call takes us deep into the Dearborn, where aerial medical responders couldn't get to immediately.
Yeah, they hot-loaded it. They weren't there.
We traded the ambulance for a volunteer Subaru, and then again for a fire department SUV.
If we can't land at the scene itself, we're going to try and go further down the hill towards the Y.
We're Upper Sawsville Forks with Dry Fork Lane.
After an hour of snowy driving, we met the Mercy Flight crew to help transport the patient to the helicopter.
He's only about 80 pounds.
He's not very heavy.
Okay, so everybody grab something, I guess, right? Old school furlough.
If we want to just pull it right up to here, to the edge, then we can actually get a handle to something to pull him out. That's all.
I got the stretcher.
Okay. Big step up. Careful, slow down.
On the way back from the rural ambulance response, we received a call for an unresponsive patient. Sirens on, gas pedal down. When we arrived, it was evident that things were not good. Luckily, a firefighter crew arrived on scene at the same time and provided critical muscle to move the patient and additional medical support.
Spin. That's it. Push it down and spin it all until it locks.
It's a team effort. Fire, EMS, police, and even air medical services all working together to give people the best chance of survival. Montana's EMS workers respond to tens of thousands of emergency calls every year, ranging from heart attacks and strokes to car crashes and drug overdoses. Across the state, paramedics and EMTs are in high demand, with many rural areas relying strictly on volunteers to provide these life-saving services. From the streets of Great Falls to the frozen backwoods of Montana to the skies with Mercy Flight, EMS teams are always ready, prepared to answer the call. And with an ever-growing need for emergency medical responders, local agencies encourage those interested to look into training and certification. Without even enough time to stop for lunch, the medics are once again responding to an emergency call as I depart them for the night. In the toughest spots of Montana, I'm James Rowland. MTN News.
While many federal workers expected a day off today, thousands didn't expect to not have a job to go back to tomorrow. That continues to be the case with widespread government layoffs, thousands of probationary employees being fired. Scripps News Group's Joe St. George explains what the designation means and why those employees are at risk.
One of the biggest stories in the country this week continues to be the downsizing of the federal government by the Trump administration and mass firings occurring across the country in various government agencies. So who exactly is getting fired? In recent days, in many cases, we're talking about probationary employees. These are often employees of the federal government who just started in their position. They can be young workers just beginning their careers in the public sector, or they can be longtime civil servants who perhaps just switched agencies for a bigger job and better pay. In May of last year, a report by the federal government estimated that there are around 200,000 federal employees with less than a year of service, with the vast majority of them being on probation. Legal experts say the Trump administration may be targeting these individuals because there may be more legal standing to terminate an employee on probation as opposed to a longtime civil servant not currently on probation. In the last several days, cuts have been reported at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health and Human Services, and at the FAA. The union representing FAA employees saying more cuts may be coming. In a statement, the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists Union said, quote, "It is possible that others will be notified over the weekend or literally barred from entering FAA buildings on Tuesday, February 18th. These are not nameless, faceless bureaucrats," the union writes. "They are our family, friends, and neighbors. They contribute to our communities. Many military veterans are among them." The Trump administration has repeatedly said that the core function of these government agencies will remain the same despite all of this downsizing, suggesting that the typical American may not see an impact to all of these mass firings. Democrats, though, are sounding the alarm, arguing that can't possibly be true and that firing tens of thousands of federal workers will ultimately result in a decline in government services. A big story to watch for this week, possible impacts at the IRS, which, of course, is in the middle of tax season. Joe St. George, Scripps News Group, Washington.